There's a road in Wisconsin that locals will tell you about in hushed voices. They'll mention it at campfires, lean in close, and drop their tone to something just above a whisper. They won't give you directions unless you already know where it is. And if you somehow find it on your own, that narrow, unpaved lane swallowed whole by the darkness of the forest, most of them will tell you the same thing. Don't go after dark. This is Boy Scout Lane. And once you hear what happened here, you will understand why some places should never be found. Drive west out of Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Head down West River Drive, just past the Wisconsin River Golf Club, and settle into the kind of flat, Midwestern quiet that feels less peaceful and more like the world holding its breath. Stevens Point is a town with deep, old roots, a city built on the backs of loggers who pushed into the vast northern wilderness in the 1800s, hauling timber down the Wisconsin River, carving civilization out of a land that did not want to be civilized. The river gave them everything, and the forests surrounding it, dense, dark, and older than any memory, took things back in return. You are now in Portage County, in the township of Linwood, where the trees grow close enough together that the canopy overhead seals out the moon, where the road beneath your tires stops being paved, and the sound of gravel and compacted earth under your wheels is the only sound in the world. You are standing at the entrance to Boy Scout Lane. It is, by any objective measure, an unremarkable stretch of road, just over 2,500 feet long, less than half a mile, unpaved, situated between Cemetery Road to the north and Little Chicago Road to the south. Dead end, privately owned land on all sides, which means the moment you feel the urge to step off the road and into the trees, you legally cannot. And perhaps that is the forest's final cruelty, drawing you close, pressing against your senses with the weight of something ancient and unresolved, and yet keeping you penned in on that narrow lane with nowhere to go but forward or back. There is no third option on Boy Scout Lane. The name itself is deceptively innocent. Boy Scout Lane. It sounds like something from a summer afternoon, a merit badge, a campfire sing-along. In truth, the road earned its name because the Boy Scouts of America once owned this land. At some point in the mid-20th century, there were plans to transform this patch of Wisconsin wilderness into a proper scout camp, a place where young boys would learn to tie knots, identify constellations, and build fires under the open sky. But the camp was never built. The plans collapsed for reasons no one clearly documented. The Boy Scouts moved on. The land stayed as it was, dense, silent, unpeopled, and the name stayed with it. Boy Scout Lane, a name that carries the ghost of something that was supposed to happen and never did. That sense of the incomplete, of the abandoned, of something left unfinished in the dark, it saturates every inch of this place. The trees have grown in so tightly over the decades that their branches reach across the road from both sides like hands interlocking. When you drive down it in summer, the canopy forms a tunnel of shadow even at noon. In autumn, the dead leaves coat the earth in a thick, muffling carpet that swallows sound. And in winter, when the Wisconsin cold sinks to temperatures that feel punishing and personal, Boy Scout Lane becomes something close to a black and white photograph of isolation. Nothing moves, nothing breathes. The silence is not empty, it is full. People feel it the moment they turn off the main road. Not one or two visitors, but dozens, hundreds of people who have traveled to this lane from across Wisconsin, from neighboring states, from paranormal research circles and urban legend databases, and whispered internet forums. They all describe the same thing: a shift, a change in air pressure perhaps, or something deeper in the nervous system that registers before the brain does. A feeling of being watched from the tree line, of eyes in the dark, of something aware of your presence that you cannot see or name. Seasoned paranormal investigators who have walked burial grounds and explored abandoned asylums will tell you that Boy Scout Lane produces a distinct and immediate dread, Not the manufactured kind you experience at a Halloween attraction, but a primal, wordless warning built into your biology. Something is wrong here. Your body knows it before you do. And that instinct, as it turns out, has a story behind it. The most common version begins like this. Somewhere in the 1950s or early 1960s, the exact year has been swallowed by time, a group of Boy Scouts from central Wisconsin set out on a camping trip. The details vary depending on who tells the story, but the destination is always the same. These woods, this lane, this ground where you are standing right now. They arrived with sleeping bags and packs and lanterns, with the particular innocence of young boys on an adventure. They had no reason to be afraid, no reason to suspect that the forest they entered would not give them back. They were never seen again. But that's only the beginning, because the question that has haunted this road for generations is not simply what happened to those boys. It is far darker than that. The question is, who or what made sure they never left?
The legend exists in multiple forms, and this is important. Urban legends do not survive for decades without a reason. They evolve, they mutate, they absorb pieces of truth and local anxiety and collective fear until they become something almost living in themselves. Boy Scout Lane's story has done exactly that. It has fractured into versions, each one slightly different, each one carrying a specific kind of dread that speaks to a different fear. And when you hear them all together, you realize the cumulative weight of every version points to the same terrible conclusion. Something went wrong on this road, and nothing was ever made right. In the first and most haunting version, the Boy Scouts arrived safely. They set up camp. Their scoutmaster, the adult authority in their lives, the man they were supposed to trust with their safety in the wilderness, watched them settle in for the night. And something broke inside him. What it was, no one can say. Madness, rage, something dark and buried that the isolation of these woods finally cracked open. One by one, while his charges slept, the scoutmaster moved through the camp. By morning, the entire troop was dead. What he did afterward is the part of the story that makes your skin go cold even in daylight. He walked out to the edge of Boy Scout Lane, found the great elm tree whose branches stretched out over the road like an archway, and he hanged himself from it. Local legend says that on certain nights, moonless, still, when the temperature drops enough to make the branches creak, you can see the shadow of a figure swaying gently from that elm tree. No wind to explain it, no source of light to cast it, just a shadow where a man ended his existence, still there, still moving, long after the body should have been gone. There is a second version. In this telling, the violence was not internal to the troop. The bus driver, the man who had driven these children out to the edge of civilization and was supposed to carry them home, was the one. He had been hired for the trip. No one knew him well, and whatever his reason, his methodology, his particular darkness, the result was the same: a troop of boys dead in the Wisconsin woods. The bus itself, some say, never left. It sits somewhere beyond the visible boundary of the lane, rusted and overgrown, swallowed by the undergrowth in the years since. People claim to have seen it, a faint shape through the trees, the outline of headlights and windows that appear and then vanish when you try to focus on them. A ghost bus on a ghost road, waiting with a patience that transcends the natural world. But the third version is the one that terrifies in a different way, because it removes the human perpetrator entirely. In this telling, the boys were not murdered. They were lost. A small group, perhaps 3 or 4 of them, crept away from the camp one night, the way boys always do, testing limits, daring each other into the dark. One of them was carrying a lantern, and at some point, in the dense tangle of the Wisconsin forest, where every tree looks identical and the compass of the sky is hidden behind a thick cloud cover, they stumbled. The lantern fell. The flame caught the dry brush of autumn, and then it caught the trees, and within minutes the forest was burning. The entire troop, every boy, gone in a fire that consumed everything. No official record confirms it. No newspaper archives from Stevens Point have surfaced documenting a forest fire of this nature in the area. No Boy Scout roster from the 1950s shows a troop that never came home. And yet, there are no records that conclusively disprove it either. Records from small Wisconsin townships in the mid-20th century were not always meticulously kept. Things could be buried. Things could be quietly closed. A tragedy involving miners, an organization as prominent as the Boy Scouts, a fire deep in the woods of Portage County, the kind of thing communities sometimes closed ranks around, chose not to speak of publicly, allowed to become whisper instead of documentation. Think about that. The absence of a record is not the same as the absence of an event. The fourth version is perhaps the most psychologically unbearable. In this telling, the boys simply vanished. No fire, no violence, no crash, no explanation. They went into the woods and they did not come back out. A search was mounted, nothing was found, not bodies, not gear, not a single piece of physical evidence to tell the searchers what had happened or in which direction the boys had moved. The forest, vast and indifferent as it is, had simply absorbed them, and this is the version that keeps some people awake because it is the version that requires no supernatural explanation to be deeply, fundamentally terrifying. Children disappear in wilderness. It happens. The woods do not always give back what they take. But there is one more version, and it contains a detail so specific, so quietly devastating, that you cannot dismiss it as pure invention. In this telling, most of the troop dies, however that death came, but 2 boys escape. They survive the initial catastrophe. They run. They push through the undergrowth in the darkness, calling out, looking for light, for a road, for any sound of civilization. They are boys, remember, 8, 9, 10 years old, in the Wisconsin forest at night, without landmarks, without equipment, without anyone who knows they are out there. They walk until they cannot walk anymore. They stop moving, and they do not survive. The elements take them, the Wisconsin cold, the exposure, the dehydration, as surely as whatever killed the others. 2 boys, alone, who almost made it to the edge of the tree line and the world beyond it, who never arrived. And maybe that is the most truthful thing about Boy Scout Lane, not a singular, clean tragedy with a clear perpetrator and a body of evidence, but layers, different stories pressing against each other, each one containing a fragment of something that might be real. The forest knows what happened, the road knows, the trees know, and the children, if they are still here, know most of all. They just cannot tell you, not in words you're ready to hear. But that's only the beginning, because what witnesses have reported experiencing on this road, what has been captured, recorded, and documented by those who came seeking answers, will make you question not just the legend, but the nature of the darkness itself.
It is one thing to hear a story. It is another to stand on the ground where the story lives and have it reach out and touch you. Hundreds of people have driven down Boy Scout Lane, paranormal investigators, journalists, college students on a dare, skeptics armed with rational explanations and recorders and flashlights, people who walked in prepared and walked out changed. And what they report, consistently across years and decades of visits, forms a pattern too dense and too specific to be dismissed as simple mass hysteria or the tricks of an overactive imagination. The first thing most people notice is the silence. Not ordinary quiet, a specific, weighted silence that descends the moment you pass the boundary of the lane. Even on summer nights in Wisconsin, there is ambient sound. Crickets, frogs from the nearby Wisconsin River wetlands, wind in the canopy, the low drone of insects. On Boy Scout Lane, those sounds stop. Multiple witnesses describe this, the way the natural audio of the world outside the lane simply ceases at the threshold, as though the road exists inside a pocket of reality slightly separated from the one you left behind. You don't hear the absence of sound, you feel it, in the same way you feel the drop in pressure before a storm. Then come the lights.
This is the most widely documented and consistently reported phenomenon associated with Boy Scout Lane, and it has been observed by enough independent witnesses at enough different points in time to constitute something genuinely unexplained. After dark, deep in the trees on either side of the road, lights appear. Red lights, white lights, moving lights that bob and swing in a rhythm that suggests carrying, as if something is walking through the undergrowth holding a lantern, swinging it with each step. They move with purpose, these lights. They do not flicker randomly like reflections or bioluminescence. They have direction. They trace paths through the forest parallel to the road. And when you try to follow them with your eyes, when you focus directly on one and hold your gaze, they vanish. Not gradually, not as a fade. They are there and then they are not, as completely and suddenly as a candle blown out by breath you cannot feel. Paranormal investigators who have filmed in the area have captured these lights on video, small, inexplicable orbs of illumination that appear between tree trunks and disappear without trace. There is no artificial light source in the area, no houses close enough to generate this effect, no explanation that the physics of reflected headlights or fireflies can fully account for. The lights on Boy Scout Lane behave as though they are searching for something, as though they have been searching for a very long time. The sounds come next, and they are perhaps even more disturbing because they are so specific. Not howls or groans, the theatrical sounds of a haunting in a film. What visitors hear is footsteps, the particular rhythm of footsteps moving through dried undergrowth, snapping small branches, displacing leaves. And not from one direction, but from multiple directions simultaneously, as though more than one person is moving through the trees on both sides of the road at the same time, moving parallel to you, keeping pace with you. You stop walking, the footsteps stop. You begin again, they begin again. You call out, silence. You begin walking faster, they keep pace. There is a precise, deliberate quality to it, the sound of something that knows you are there, that is tracking your movement without revealing itself, that is as aware of you as you are terrified of it. And then there are the handprints. If you park your car on Boy Scout Lane and sit and wait and eventually drive out, check your vehicle before you leave the road. Check the hood, the roof, the windows, the trunk. What people have found and documented in photographs posted across paranormal research communities and Wisconsin folklore archives are handprints, small ones, child-sized, pressed into the dust or condensation of the vehicle's surface with a definition and precision that suggests deliberate placement rather than random contact. Palm and fingers clearly formed. In some cases, multiple prints side by side, as if more than one pair of hands pressed against the metal simultaneously. In some reports, they appear on windows, on the inside of windows, in vehicles that were locked and occupied, where no child was present and no physical explanation exists. There is a documented account, published online and referenced in Wisconsin paranormal research communities, from a group of women who visited in the summer of 2005. 3 friends, curious after reading about the location in a local ghost guide, drove out on a warm July night with a video camera. The account describes the immediate sense of unease upon turning onto the lane, a collective, simultaneous feeling of dread that none of them could explain. They drove down the road, turned around, drove back out, all without incident. The strangeness only revealed itself when they returned home and played back their footage on a television screen. In the recording, at the exact moment one of the women coughed, she'd been recovering from a cold, there is a sound that does not belong to anyone present, a heavy, whispering breath, close to the microphone, intimate and deliberate, as if something leaned into the camera and exhaled directly at it. They played it back 4 times. The sound did not change. It did not resolve into something explainable. It remained, a breath in a car from something that was not there. But it was the visual evidence that made them stop sleeping soundly for weeks afterward. When they reviewed footage from the drive back out of the lane, taken with an infrared setting, they saw it on the small screen of the camera. A face, pressed against the outer glass of the car window. Not a human face, not in any proportion or configuration that matched a living person's features, something approximating a face, something that had watched them from outside the glass during the entire drive without them knowing it. They were not the last to report being watched on the way out. Because here is the thing about Boy Scout Lane that the legends do not prepare you for. The road follows you home. Driver after driver, visitor after visitor, describe the experience of leaving the lane only to notice a vehicle appearing in their rearview mirror, headlights in the dark, maintaining exact distance, turning when they turn, accelerating when they accelerate, following them all the way back to the main road and sometimes beyond. In some cases, those following headlights are witnessed by multiple people in the car simultaneously. In others, they appear on dashcam footage. And in most cases, when the driver stops and turns around, or when the following vehicle should logically appear at an intersection or a crossroads, the headlights are simply gone. No vehicle, no turnoff, no explanation for where it went. You cannot explain away an entire body of independent witness accounts spanning decades by pointing to suggestion and fear response. The people who experienced these things were not all believers. They were not all vulnerable to imagination. Some of them were journalists, researchers, scientists looking for debunkable phenomena. And yet, they came away from Boy Scout Lane with the same unsettled certainty. Something on that road is aware. Something is present. Something did not finish what it started, or did not get to finish what someone else violently interrupted on its behalf, and it has been here, in this narrow corridor of trees and darkness, ever since. But nothing yet disclosed is as dark as what lies just a short distance away, because Boy Scout Lane does not exist in isolation. It exists within a geography of tragedy, bordered on one side by a road named for the dead and adjacent to a cemetery named for blood.
Walk north from Boy Scout Lane toward the road that intersects with the lane's entry point, and you will find Cemetery Road. This is its actual name, and it tells you something about the atmosphere of this particular corner of Wisconsin's Portage County. Not a nickname, not local slang. The road is literally called Cemetery Road. And on Cemetery Road, not far from the entrance to Boy Scout Lane, sits a burial ground that carries a name equally unambiguous about the kind of stories it has attracted over the years. Locals call it Blood Cemetery. Its official name is Woodville Cemetery, also referred to as Linwood Cemetery in some records, and it is a real, documented, historic burial ground. One of the individuals interred there was a man named Calvin Blood. He was a real person, born in 1925, buried in this quiet country cemetery, his name carved into a stone marker. And it is his name, that surname, that particular combination of syllables that reads like something out of a Gothic novel, that seeded the legend. Calvin Blood, according to local folklore, did not rest peacefully after his burial. Stories circulated about unusual activity at the cemetery, strange lights above his grave, shadows near his headstone at night. And in the convergence point where the cemetery legend and the Boy Scout Lane legend blur into each other, there is this: the story that Calvin Blood did not die in the cemetery or near it, but on Boy Scout Lane itself, where he is said to have hanged himself from a tree, the same elm tree in some versions that the Scoutmaster used decades before or after. This is where the mythology of this place becomes something more layered than a simple urban legend. When two separate haunting traditions from two separate locations begin to share details, when the hanged figure migrates between stories, when the specific tree appears in both accounts, when one ghost seems to look back at you from the territory of another, you are looking at a region that has absorbed so much local dread, so much accumulated grief and darkness, that the stories can no longer be kept separate. They bleed together, as the name of the road suggests. The land between Boy Scout Lane and Blood Cemetery is a single geography of unresolved history, and whatever inhabits it does not respect the distinction between these two named locations. It moves freely through the woods that connect them,
unbounded by story or sign or the private property notices tacked to the trees at the lane's entrance. Stand at the top of Boy Scout Lane on a November night. The temperature in central Wisconsin has dropped below freezing. Your breath is visible. The canopy overhead, stripped of its leaves, allows the sky through in thin slivers of gray-black cloud and no moon at all. The road ahead of you disappears into darkness after 30 feet. Not a gradual fade, but a solid wall of black where your vision simply stops. The trees on either side are close enough that you could touch both simultaneously if you stretched your arms. And there is something in the sound of the wind through the stripped winter branches, a high, thin, reedy sound that your brain keeps trying to interpret as a voice, as syllables, as the edge of a word. It isn't. It cannot be. But the harder you listen, the more certain you become that it is trying to be. Ask yourself, what do places like this hold? Is it energy? Is it memory? Is it the residue of something so traumatic that the very ground retains an imprint of it, an echo that plays back across years in the form of light and sound and the pressure of small hands against glass? There are scientists who study what they call stone tape theory, the hypothesis that certain materials, under certain conditions, can absorb and later replay the electromagnetic imprint of emotionally charged events, the way magnetic tape records audio. It is not established science, it is hypothesis, but it is also the most rational framework available for explaining why, in a place where no definitive historical tragedy can be confirmed, dozens of independent observers continue to record and report and capture phenomena that should not exist. Or consider the alternative. Consider that the legend is not entirely fabricated, that somewhere in the archives of mid-century Wisconsin, in a local office, a parish record, a county health filing from 1957 or 1961 or 1964, there is a document that has never been digitized, never been publicized, never been found. A death certificate, a missing persons report, a fire report from a county ward that no longer exists under that name. Consider that what the forest absorbed on Boy Scout Lane was real children, real names, real families who received news that their sons were not coming home and who were given an explanation, the right explanation, the official explanation, that asked them to grieve quietly and not seek too much detail. This happened in America in the mid-20th century. It happened with communities, with institutions, with organizations that had reputations to protect and the means to protect them. The Boy Scouts of America was in the 1950s and 1960s one of the most powerful and culturally prominent youth organizations in the country. Over 2.5 million youth members, over 1 million adult volunteers, an institution woven into the fabric of American identity. The kind of organization that if something unspeakable had occurred on a remote piece of land it once owned, would have had every incentive, and perhaps the institutional capacity, to ensure that the event remained precisely what it has remained for 70 years, unconfirmed, unverified, and therefore impossible to definitively disprove. The land surrounding Boy Scout Lane is privately owned. You cannot access it. You cannot search it. You cannot dig. You cannot compel anyone to open records. You can only stand on the road, which is public, which is legally accessible, and listen to what the woods are willing to tell you. And here is what the woods say, that on certain nights the lights still move between the trees, swinging at hip height, carried by something that walks in a child's rhythm, that the footsteps still come from both sides, tracking anyone who enters, that the handprints still appear on cars parked in the dark, that the shadow still moves on the elm tree with no wind to justify it, that the face still presses against glass, that the breath still sounds in recordings where no breath should be, and that every person who drives down Boy Scout Lane and out again finds in their rearview mirror something following them, headlights in the dark, maintaining perfect distance, turning when they turn, until the moment they reach the edge of what belongs to the road, and the road releases its hold. Because that is the final truth of Boy Scout Lane. The road does not let go cleanly. It follows you, not the way a simple scare follows you,
not the adrenaline memory of a jump, a shock, a sudden noise. Something deeper, a doubt, a certainty that lives just below the level of logic, in the part of your mind that is older than language and more honest than reason, that continues to insist, days after you have left the lane and returned to your life, you were not alone in those woods. You were watched the entire time, and whatever watched you is still there now, exactly where you left it, in 2,500 feet of darkness between Cemetery Road and Little Chicago Road, waiting for the next pair of headlights to turn off the pavement and press into the tunnel of trees. The children never left the woods. They are still looking for the way out, and every night, in the particular darkness of Boy Scout Lane, their lanterns swing back and forth through the trees, looking for a road home that no longer exists, looking for someone who will finally listen to what they have been trying to say since the night the forest took them. The question you must ask yourself, the one that will keep you awake after this ends, is not whether the story is true. By now, you know enough to understand that the absence of official documentation is not proof of absence. The question is simpler and colder and more personal than that. It is this: if you drove down Boy Scout Lane tonight and you turned off your engine and you sat in the dark with your windows down and the Wisconsin forest pressing in on all sides, how long do you think it would take before you heard them? And what would you do when somewhere in the deep black between those trees, a lantern began to move?